for Christmas this year we got a panettone in a box, and I managed to acquire the box. So first thing I did was give the surface a good sanding to take the shine off of the card, and to give a good key for glue and whatever later on. So the bottom I'm just going to paint because it's quite a tight fit, so I'm not going to do anything particularly special to that. But for the lid, I first measured out and poked some holes for wool to come through later on, and they're all marked in exactly, so it's a nice balance there. And then I've started to add some squares of sugar paper with half PVA, half water, so it's going to give it a nice base for everything else to stick to later on. So this has had 5 or 6 minutes just to set in place, so I can remove this one without everything pinging off. And what I'm going to do is actually use that stick to hold this open, like that, and then just do a line of squares glued down here just to set this in solid. Because once it's in, I'm not going to be able to do much with it once it's in and finished. So again, this is just basic PVA 50/50 with water. Nothing too complicated. Okay, I've got to this point. I've got all the external bits fixed on at the minute. It's been held on by residual glue and a little bit of mache on top. So next stage is to basically cover the whole thing again in more mache to add some stability and some strength to these, and to make sure everything's fixed in securely before I can move on to applique of other things and painting. So yeah, that's as far as I've got. So I'll come back when I've covered the whole thing. Okay, so this is dried overnight and it's quite firm. It could probably do with another layer, but I don't think I will. I think it should be fine once it's painted and varnished, because there's enough strength on it. So next stage is to put some bottoms into these containers on the side. So I've done the half card here. So if you line it up against a piece of card, I'm using a fairly thick bit of offcut here, so it's got some body to it. Draw around it and then cut it out, and then that will lay into place. And you can see the card's not quite straight, which is why I've traced it first. Tuck it in like that, so it's just jammed in and just holding itself in now. And just for the minute, hold in a couple of pieces of masking tape or low tack tape just to hold it in. Okay, so my box had a decent 24 hours to dry, so I'm starting laying out bits and pieces of some ribbon here, some trim, buttons and whatever else. So I'm going to start with the zip actually, which I think will sit. Will sit quite nicely along this opening here, so it looks like it's unzipped. So I'm going to keep one end straight along the edge, and the other end I'm going to just kind of concertina so it sits flat. Whatever you add on here, it must sit flat so the glue, so the paint will cover it properly. I'm going to do the main kind of structural work with the hot glue gun, and then cover the whole lot in PVA, so it's got that base for the paint and everything else to stick to. covered the whole box with haberdashery items and trim and buttons, so it's got some nice texture going on it. Most of it is obviously concentrated on the top, and I put 4 nails into the holes I made right at the beginning, so they are maintained during the painting process. So now it's a case of covering the whole thing in PVA. I'd normally do a 2/3 PVA, 1/3 water, but as my cheap PVA is very cheap and very skinny, I think I'll use it neat. Then it's about the same sort of strength, I think. Right at the beginning I painted the base, and I found that is now sticky. Even though it is completely dry with the box lid on, it is almost impossible to get off, so I'm going to have to rethink that. So that's something that's going to come up later on. So. Okay, so this has had at least 48 hours to dry completely, and it is stiff and solid. I've checked around and most things have landed flat, but this elasticated ribbon has popped up a bit. I think that will add a bit of texture, so we'll see how that goes. I've left the nails in to maintain the holes here, but given them a slight wobble just to kind of release them from the glue so they'll come out easier. On the top here, I don't know if you can see, I've put some pins on, and these two are still poking up slightly, so I'm going to really saturate the ends with glue in the hope that that will keep them down. So now it's start painting time, and I'm again going to try and get as much in here as I can in order to clear that out and cover that up. So I'm going to start with a coat of black acrylic just to give it a base, and then I'll put on a colour which will probably be dark blue depending on what I can get. So here we go, and I'm using a nice big brush which makes it a lot easier to cover large areas quite quickly. This PVA is this acrylic is quite thin, so it should go quite a distance. So I've had some complaints about the amount of sped up footage I did last time, but this time around I don't think you want to watch me do this in normal time, so I'm going to speed up until I'm finished. So there, pretty much that's it for now. Okay, so I've given this box a coat of burnt sienna and then burnt umber, very very dry brush, and just kind of scrub it in quite a bit. So it's covered the black, but it's given it a slightly kind of mottled appearance, which is a nice effect here. So I've got a little bit of gold and a piece of sponge. So now it's just a case of carefully, although not too carefully, rubbing it in and then rubbing it off again, so that the gold sits in the shapes of the trim but doesn't cover everything. So it adds some highlight and it makes it sort of steampunk-ish. To make it really steampunky, you want to use cogs and springs and all manner of things on the box instead of haberdashery items, but that kind of style. Okay, so in natural daylight I can see that I've got a fairly good coat of gold on top, and I've got nice patches of other colours just popping through, but I think I want to give it a couple more highlights just to give it a bit more depth, I think. So I'm going to use Q-tip and a little bit of my gold acrylic and just find what I think needs the extra body and add a little bit to that. Okay, so we've finished the top, and I just need to put some black paper or brown paper lining inside the holders on the sides. And I've lined the inside of the box with 4 dividers, so you can have 4 balls of wool feeding out at the same time. Just need to deal with the slight stickiness issue on the outside. So the thing with acrylic is it always maintains a slight tackiness, especially when I'm up against other acrylic, so it will stick together over time. So I would use something like this. Hope that comes out very well. That is just plain baking flour. You can use any kind of flour you like, corn flour or talcum powder, and all you need to do, get some on a bit of kitchen roll and just rub it in. One side, tap out the excess, wipe down your tabletop and yourself, and that should solve the problem. Yeah, it's still fairly sturdy to stick on. So, now it's finished and more or less ready to play. It needs a coat of varnish and some lining inside these pockets, but other than that I'm good. I was having problems earlier on with the zip being very tight, but I've gone for a basic option of putting handles on the bottom so you can just pull it open like that when you need it. And being so tight, it doesn't have to go all the way down, it can just go about halfway. So if you've got larger balls of wool, you can put them on top rather than putting them into the little dividers inside. Yeah, fabulous. Please like and subscribe.